What would you like to do if money were no object? How would you really enjoy spending your life?
Welcome to the Datsusara podcast.
If you say that getting the money is the most important thing, you will spend your life completely wasting your time. You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing.
We are here with Roy Dean this week, and yes, yet another Jiu-Jitsu black belt, fourth degree this time, and again taking a slight break from my collection of the Hickson black belts, which I think I was going on a tour interviewing all of them, but you have a very unique approach to Jiu-Jitsu and a slightly different path, which I would love to talk about amongst many other things. So maybe to start with, I would just love, I know you've got a whole book about your path to black belt in jiu-jitsu, but you had a lot of history with martial arts before that. So maybe if you could give me sort of the condensed version for the folks that don't know you yet.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, Chris. I started looking at martial arts and thinking it was really cool when I was a kid. I saw some kung fu movies and I was like, oh, I'd love to do that, but we didn't really have the opportunity to. I got enrolled in karate, briefly, but I didn't really understand what was going on. I was like a kid, right? So that really took a turn when I was sent to Japan as an exchange student, through a Rotary exchange program. I wanted to go to Sweden, but they sent me to Japan, and that was a marked difference. And they encouraged me to do Japanese art after school. And I could do like Kyudo or Kendo, or I had different options, but I chose Judo. And Judo was a really good foundational martial art for me to begin with. It's a young man's art, and it shows you that it's not really about esoteric knowledge. It's about repetitions, and putting it in your body, using your mind to program your body so you don't have to think when the moment comes. So once I returned to the US, I did a little bit of Judo, but it wasn't quite the same. I got into Aikido and eventually moved into the dojo of a Japanese Jiu Jitsu master in Monterey, California. I apprenticed under him for a period of time, and then I got into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And once I really dedicated myself to figuring out the puzzle of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and that chess game, I just had to stick with it because it was so deep and so cool that I was hooked for life.
And how many years later did you get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from when you started as a kid with Judo?
I was 16 when I started in Japan, and I was 22 when I got involved in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was still living in the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu dojo, but I started training once a week up in Santa Cruz, California under Claudio França. And then from there, the next year I could do it 2 times a week, and then, that additional training really made a big difference. With my development in the art.
Interesting. So what do you think it was that made you want to, I mean, I assume this is sort of your full-time thing, but really to dedicate your life to all this?
It was a hobby for a long time. I was really into it, but then after I got out of the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu dojo, my body was pretty beat up, and I talked to one of my high school friends, and she had just graduated from Carnegie Mellon and got a job with Intel, and I thought, man, I should probably get back in school. I was just beaten up. So I went to junior college, and then I transferred to San Diego, went to UC San Diego, and then got a job as an audio engineer at a really, really high-level production company. And that was kind of between my university education and then that job, that really launched me into understanding media in a different way, and being able to leverage that in my jiu-jitsu career, which I didn't decide to dedicate myself to until I was 31. I graduated, I think I was 26 or 27 years old when I graduated from university. I got the job. I worked there for about 4.5 years, but it really felt, I mean, it taught me a lot of great lessons, like what the level was when you work in a professional environment. It's like it was much higher than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Their attention to detail, the pressure cooker that a production facility can be when you have a real deadline, like a real FedEx deadline. And
Yeah.
so that was really instructive, but man, it was not that healthy. It was not that healthy. I'm working in a music studio. I got no windows.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm working 40 hours a week. Sometimes it's 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
I'm the last link in the production chain. The final mix goes out.
Yeah.
And it was just,
Pressure. Yeah.
it was okay. I was grateful to have the job. And when you're young, you're like, no, I need this job. I mean, you're holding on to it with everything you have. I need this job. What would I do? But over time, I took a trip to Yosemite with my girlfriend because I was just really unhappy. And I realized, no, I should quit my job, get my black belt, which was just around the corner, and I should start a martial arts academy because that is what's going to free me
Yeah.
from this 9 to 5 grind that I'm in.
Excellent. That's I can definitely relate. I was doing video productions and also feeling extremely unhealthy about it when I went to starting to train MMA and then eventually starting Datsusara. And the whole
Mhm.
meaning of the company Datsusara is really about escaping sort of the laid down, necessity career and then finding something that you actually really care about and you want to dedicate yourself to. Not necessarily about just quitting and being lazy, but finding that thing where maybe you're whatever meant to be or where you'll be most effective and you will, have some meaning in your life. So yeah, I
Right.
get that. Yeah, that can be hard for, a lot of people to find and to be brave enough to do it. I mean, that can be tough. I know for myself, even I slowly cut out the clients I didn't like the most and until I could support
Mm.
myself on the other job. But did you just kind of
Hmm.
take a leap or did you sort of do part-time and try the martial arts career?
And there was, I had a couple of signs from the universe.
Mhm.
Um, I saw that people had a much better balance, work-life balance, if they were running martial arts academies. And they would come in and train with my instructor, and I was like, dude, I'm just as good as I'm more advanced than these guys that are running full-time academies. Uh, so that was interesting. And then I started teaching locally in San Diego, and I started attracting students right away. And I wasn't even advertising. It just more people would come in. I was only doing it once a week, but I said, "Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
This is a good sign." So, with that in mind, I eventually decided to quit my job. I didn't really have any money, but I had a contact up in Bend, Oregon. I could go a couple of different places to open an academy. I didn't want to do it in San Diego. I didn't want to be in the same town as my teacher.
Yeah.
And so I went to Bend, Oregon, and he's like, you should take a trip up here, do a seminar, see if you like it. I took one trip and I said, this is it. This is a beautiful town,
Very
kind of small,
Yeah.
but beautiful town. It also had something that I was craving because when you're in San Diego, it's like it's summer all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. You have actual seasons in Bend. Yeah.
You're right. You have actual seasons, and winter isn't that bad because it's sunny.
Yeah.
So
It's up there now.
right. Just that kind of demarcation of time, I missed it.
Mm.
And so I felt like it was a better balance, getting out of San Diego and kind of escaping a little bit of the rat race I'd found myself in.
Mm.
And when I first moved to San Diego, it was very exciting. I'm like, oh, I'm in big city traffic. I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but over time, you just find yourself in traffic. Like, what am I doing here?
Not a nice way to spend the time of your life. Yeah. What, but you got sucked back in, right? Are you back in California now?
Oh yeah. But I'm not in San Diego. I carefully picked my spot. So I'm in Palm Springs, technically
Oh,
Palm Desert, California.
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Ah,
beautiful. I really love the desert landscape,
yeah.
and I have some good friends here with a beautiful academy. Um, and I can go to San Diego if I need to, or Los Angeles if I need to.
Yeah.
So I can dip in and out of those major environments,
Mm-hmm.
which is great, but I don't need to stay there,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
I have a great love for that area. It's one of the few places in California that I kind of wish I would have lived in, but I didn't. And then especially lately, I started to develop a taste for mid-century modern
Oh
stylings.
yeah.
And
Oh
then I
yeah. Oh
started, I
yeah.
was golfing when I took a long jiu-jitsu break. I was just golfing all the time. So to get down there and I was like, oh my gosh, it's mid-century modern heaven and golf. And my favorite shabu shabu restaurant is down there
Oh,
too, which
really? Is it called shabu shabu?
I think so. Is that the one that's on that? It's
Yeah.
kind of near that big mountainous hill thing, and like they're so good. I mean,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
I go nuts every time I go there. I just
I'm I'm a fan as well. Yeah, no, they're fantastic.
yeah, very good. It's hard to find a good version of that, so I appreciate it. But yeah, that's a nice spot. I can see how you ended up there. My wife unfortunately hates the desert, so if I ever do go back, that's probably not happening. But
Right. Yeah, it's not for everybody, but as someone who grew up in Anchorage, Alaska,
ah,
I've been chasing the sun.
yes,
And I still go back to Alaska, summers up there. I have family up there.
yeah,
So I'm still connected, but
yeah.
most of the year is spent here if I'm and this is a good travel hub as well, which comes
Yeah.
in handy.
Yeah, it's a nice spot. I had a hard time when I was up in Oregon, but that's because I wasn't in Bend. I was outside of Portland, and at first it was nice. I went, "Oh, I like the seasons. I love the rain," and it was such a relief after being in mostly drier California all my life. And then after a couple years of just gray skies and in the 50s all the time, and I couldn't
Mm,
take it. I no matter how much vitamin D I took, it was like, no, this is not working. So I said
yeah.
goodbye to all my jujitsu friends up there, which we almost crossed paths probably when you visited Impact. But yeah, and I moved back down to well, the Danish version of Sunny Fields, Solvang, where I grew up,
Um,
Solvang Saint Ynez. So that was because I need the sunshine too. I just love the sun. So I was down there for a while until I got over here to Texas. But anyway, long story there. But but
yeah.
that's interesting though. So when did you run into to Roy Harris then? I'm curious at what point in your journey, because he's a very different and interesting practitioner of everything. And yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, so he was on my radar. So I was training with Claudio França in Santa Cruz, and his right-hand man was Garth Taylor.
Right.
Um, and he recommended a few people. I was like, hey, I'm going down to San Diego. He recommended a few people. Fabio Santos was one of the recommendations.
Mhm.
Roy Harris, he said, if you want a more intellectual approach. And I think he may have recommended Rodrigo Medeiros as maybe a third choice. So all amazing practitioners in their own right. But Mr. Harris was doing a self-defense class, kind of a jiu-jitsu class over at UC San Diego.
Hmm.
And so that was done in the combat room, and I was able to meet him there. But then actually there was another incident that happened. I was online. In the early days, people don't really talk about it, but in the early days, online forums were a huge element
Yeah.
in kind of the BJJ scene.
Yes.
The In the Guard forum, the Underground,
Hmm.
Musel self-defense forum, like these were where you got the information,
Yeah. Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Are you yeah. So it was on one of those forums they were saying, hey, there's at this casino, there's going to be a grappling competition. And it had guys from the Lion's Den and the Shark Tank and some local BJJ teams. And I was like, oh, this is it. Cool. I was at that time, I wasn't training jujitsu
Hmm.
because when I moved to San Diego, I was like, no, it's all about my grades.
Yeah.
I gotta get serious. I got to get a job when I get out of college. I'm not going to be a martial arts professional. So,
Yeah.
so I was abstaining. I was doing some gymnastics instead. And and then I went to this event, and it was really well run. And, back in the day, very few tournaments were well run.
Yeah. They hardly are. So yeah, for sure back then.
Right. And then and there were some interesting matches. A lot of like early Dean Lister versus like Vernon Tiger White.
Hmm.
I mean, we're like old school stuff, but the organizer, I wanted to shake his hand, be like, "Hey, this is really well done." And his name was Matt Stansel. He was originally a blue belt under Hoyce,
Hmm.
but then he started training under Roy Harris, and he couldn't say enough good things about him. And I also talked with one of Roy's students, Michael Jen, who had moved up to the Bay Area at that time. But we had a conversation, and he said, "Look, I think Roy Harris can get you where you want to go. You want to get a black belt. You really want to understand the art. He can take you there." And he didn't advise against going with a Brazilian instructor, but it was kind of the same between the language barrier and my style of learning. I wanted someone who could be really specific.
Yeah.
Your hand placement is off. No. You need to pull in more with your right arm, and extend more with a straight arm lever, and like
Mhm.
your skeletal alignment is off instead of just like smash the guy,
Right.
go hard. So I mean, for me, I needed that
Mm-hmm.
because what I was doing, I was putting in the work, but I just don't feel like the return on investment for my energy was being reciprocated in the way that I was being taught.
Yeah.
And it was really rough in those days. I mean, the guys that were going straight to MMA were going into BJJ because they're like, well, that's what I see. These guys are winning with that kind of fighting. Okay, that's what we need to do. So,
Yeah.
so I went to his academy on my birthday, and he wasn't in that day, but one of his guys was, and I just, I felt like this is cool. It was different. It was no gi. It was a no gi academy. Well, I mean, way before 10th Planet.
Yeah.
And and guys were just like, cool. And it was also very refreshing, because I'd done so much Japanese Jiu-Jitsu and Aikido, and there's so much formality involved.
Yeah.
Like you got to bow to the teacher, bow to your partner, do the technique, bow away. It's just so much bowing,
Mm-hmm.
not enough practice.
Right.
And it was kind of like, it felt kind of stilted and just like, and at Mr. Harris's academy, multidisciplinary. He did BJJ, most of it without the gi,
Mm-hmm.
and JKD, and guys are in like regular clothes, and it just felt like, ooh, this is free.
Uh-huh.
This is like a cool environment.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. Well, he definitely has a different take. Did you when you were interviewing him, I loved how he was talking about, and this might have been before you were there, about how they used to go out in like the back alleyway and practice jujitsu out on the concrete where you'd run into glass or whatever other things. And that didn't apparently last very long because people would get crap in their eyes like, well, no. But I mean, I was impressed because I went, now there's some realism, because I'm always complaining. I'm going, you know what? Would we really be doing this if we were on concrete? And I'm like, yeah. And then you add in the back alleyway trash, and he had interesting that he did that. I mean, it's not very sustainable, but I love that he was wild enough to take that chance.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was the guy who was thinking out of the box, and he's so far ahead of his time that people don't even recognize him as being a visionary. It's like the guys that came after him with the ideas are being visionaries. Whether it was BJJ over 40 or having a Nogi Academy or the leg lock revolution, he was so early on all of that.
Yeah.
That it's like he doesn't even get the credit he deserves, but he does bring that awareness of like, the things that would work, the things that wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And he also, he has a lot of respect for the Gracies, but for example, the Gracie self-defense curriculum, those are jujitsu answers for a variety of situations.
Hmm.
but not every solution is a jujitsu solution.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it can be solved that way, but
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah, I like that. I think that probably helps with it having his JKD kind of background because you're looking for, exactly what Bruce was talking about. It's finding, what works and eliminating, the rest. So yeah, you gotta adapt to whatever situation you're in.
For sure. And I think the JKD also helped in categorize things instead of just like, here's a move, here's another move, here's another move. Defense, offense, it's, positional escapes,
Yeah.
submissions, guard passes, arm locks, just categorizing things so you can address where your deficiencies are a little bit more
Mhm.
clearly and immediately.
Yeah. No, I like that. Did you find that your background in the other martial arts was somewhat useful? Because I mean, we all have the stories of people who spent all these years training in other arts and they get to jiu-jitsu and they go, "Oh, well, that was time wasted." But I'm curious because I feel like maybe you found some useful things out of that time. And we all make fun of Aikido and stuff, but maybe there's something there. Like my friend Nate Orchard mentioned, hey, you know what? Those guys are really good at falling though, like really good at, you know,
Hmm.
bodies. And I went, oh, I hadn't thought about that actually. Yeah, I mean, even that alone might be something of value.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the area where they're more advanced. For example, ukemi. Yeah, they are more advanced. Most Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners have terrible ukemi, and it's the most practical element of martial arts.
Mm.
Uh, Judo is better.
Mm-hmm.
The Aiki Jiu-Jitsu and Aikido, they're the best.
Mm.
And they can flow with it. They have all these different variations because they're receiving techniques with full power all the time.
Mm.
So they really have the energy to work with on, they have all this ammunition, like how do you deflect it? How do you absorb it? So they get a lot more reps in that realm as well. Plus, you know, in jujitsu, they're like, when pull, push, when push, pull, I mean, that kind of a thing. You're supposed to blend with the overwhelming force.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sounds good in theory, but most people do not yield. They don't practice yielding, right? Most people oppose until they're exhausted. Then
Mm.
they give up,
Right.
right? But in Aikido, you're taught to blend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you get a lot of repetitions blending, and you get a great sensitivity
Mm.
on how to read pressure and where to blend and how to spin out of things.
Yeah.
So you explore like more angles in the dynamic sphere than just head on or like, okay, 45 degrees to the side. Sometimes you slip to the back corner, which is essentially what a Baron Bolo does on the ground,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
right? You roll all the way to that back corner over here.
Right.
So Aikido is good. The problem is that, you just, no matter how good your body skills are, no matter how good your sensitivity is, if you don't know what the next move is, you're at a loss. And you gotta have all of it. You gotta have the internal alignment. You have to have the sensitivity. You have to have the different attributes, speed, power, isometric strength. And you need to know what the next move is. You got to have the chess game understood
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't, boom, 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 like all your tools are gone.
Yeah. Right.
So you definitely need to understand, and that's what I think a lot of Aikido practitioners, they just don't understand. They might have like one follow-up,
Mm.
but as you know, I mean, you need to go like 3 or 4 moves deep to
Right.
really understand a position.
Yeah.
And at black belt, you can go 7 or 8
Yeah.
moves deep. If they resist and you do that and they do that and they do, and that whole chain has got to be automatic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think, and you need a sense of to give Matt Thornton some credit, aliveness, in whatever art you're doing. Otherwise, I don't think you ever get far enough down the road. You're just kind of going through these motions. So,
Totally.
yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And Matt Thornton, I mean, that aliveness is key. And I mean, yeah, the fact that he pushed that, and I mean, I don't know if it was really controversial in the time. Maybe in the time frame it was,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, he was visionary pioneer.
Hmm.
Yeah, I still, he and Mr. Harris got in a little squabble online over, like, of course,
Yeah.
because Mr. Harris was like, no, sometimes you need static repetitions, just kind of feel it out, like it's
Uh,
progression. He's
mhm.
like, no, 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 you start with aliveness.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, in my opinion, similar to the, don't do techniques, just ecological,
Yeah.
figure it out,
I don't know why I have
right? I mean, we're
either
seeing
or.
parallels with that.
Yeah. Yes, very similar. Yeah. Yeah, you kind of need a balance of both. That's why when people started mentioning this new ecological argument thing, I went, "Well, isn't this is just the same? You need some of that, yes, and but not all of that. Like why is this even an argument? Like what why are we going
Right?
through this?" Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, yeah, whatever. It's one component.
Yeah.
Don't blow it up to be everything. And if you don't have it, it's not good. But, it shouldn't replace everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, along the lines of Roy Harris and the way that like you guys are doing jujitsu in general, like I noticed, and I'm curious, like if it's more his influence or something that you brought in, but it seems like when I look at some of the videos and the way that you guys do things, it looks like you've got a little bit more of that like Japanese traditional style in certain ways, or maybe it's just aesthetics a little bit, which I thought was
Mhm.
really beautiful and interesting and different. I went, oh, okay, but it doesn't look forced or like it seems like, I don't know, seems a little more natural and like something that was just, yeah, we want to do this versus like, oh, we must follow these lines. But it is different. You guys look a little different than the rest of the jujitsu world, I think, in some ways that way.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it is a mix of like his requirements that he developed out of necessity. When he was training people, he's going around the world, Poland, Europe, all these different countries, and they didn't have any qualified people to test them, to earn a blue belt.
Yeah.
People were hungry, but they didn't have anything around them.
Yeah.
So they'd go to seminars and they'd be like, hey, could you test me? Am I ready for my blue belt? So he developed something standardized,
Mm.
which was the basis for my blue belt requirements. And I mean, basically, all my entire curriculum is based off of his ideas for the art. And what I'm really into developing a framework, not dictating like specific techniques that people need to do.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think frameworks they last longer, and they can be more tailored because you can inject your own, personal creativity or your own
Yeah.
whatever's tailored to your body type. So, the Japanese, like the kind of formality influence is more of me. Like he'll do a bow
Yeah.
and a handshake, but he's not really into it. But
Yeah.
when I started, I did a more, like complete hybrid
Mhm.
of the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu and traditional Budo arts I had studied, mixed with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
So bowing, some Japanese terms,
Mhm.
um, and structuring these rites of passage so
Mm.
that people could test themselves. And it was an amazing thing where I could take kind of the format of my Japanese jiu-jitsu demonstrations, where they would start with kata and then gradually build up with weapons and into kind of like almost like sparring, not really sparring, but kind of like more improvisational techniques that you do against random attacks.
Mhm.
And I thought, I could do something similar, but it's actually real resistance.
Yeah. Well, so explain, people haven't seen it, and even I'm still getting familiar with it. Explain like how what people go through when they're going through like a belt testing in your system.
Yeah. So when I started my academy, I had people do demonstrations. Now were optional, but almost everyone wanted to do them.
Mm.
And it helped ensure like a very uniform level of skill.
Mm.
They would do the belt requirements from, blue belt requirements DVD, which is in the Harris International system of essentially starting with mount escapes,
Mm-hmm.
side mount escapes, a couple headlocks in there too. Um, then you would do sweeps, guard passes, demonstrate submissions, and and then basically spar. So you have like the form and the formless, the kata and the randori,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you get this nice mix, and you're not expected, like at the blue belt level, you're expected to be able to execute the techniques with no power because the person's not resisting you. So it's really checking like do I know the angles? Do I really understand the body mechanics
Yeah.
behind it? So if there's strain and grunting, it's like, no, you're not ready yet. You have to find that effortless path,
Yeah.
So, and then after that, for purple belt demonstrations, basically the same thing. A number of positional escapes and guard passing and takedowns. But you need to do combinations of techniques, at least 3 steps in complexity.
Mm.
So you can start with a takedown, guard pass, mount. They give you the arm. Maybe they spin out of the arm lock. You finish with a triangle. That's like one combination. I want you to do 10 of those. Want to be pretty well rounded. Most of it is adding on to what you already use. So you're kind of extending your normal, repertoire of techniques. And then add in a couple things that you want. Maybe you want some 10th planet stuff. Okay, yeah. Bring that in because you're going to be doing a lot of reps. So this is what you're programming into your body.
Yeah.
And so when I had my academy, I did that for like blue, purple, brown. Now that I don't have an academy, I just have affiliates. Some of them choose to do it in this way. They can film it or not film it. When I had my academy, I filmed everything. So people could see like, ooh, this is like, it's a pretty high level of skill. Nice technical standard. Yeah. And for now, it's really just brown and black belts, affiliates that are ready for it.
Yeah.
And they don't have to do it. But I say, man, if you're going to require this of your students, you definitely have to do one.
Yeah.
It's like telling your students to compete when you've never competed. It's like, no, you really should you should walk that first.
Yeah.
So the black belt is a bit, essentially the same thing: positional escapes, guard passes, takedowns, and some pretty sophisticated technical combinations. And then 4 rounds of sparring with, sometimes I do it really hard. Like one of Devin Turner, he recently did his last year, and it was tough. He was a former pro MMA fighter, so I gave him 4 black belts, and I'm the last guy. I'm the final boss. All right, unless I'm injured.
Yeah.
So the idea is not to break them. The idea is to like push them and temper their spirit so they emerge stronger from the experience, and they feel like, hey, I earned it.
Yeah.
I earned it today. And they get something that's, kind of like a calling card in the modern era. The students can see like, oh, how good is this guy? Well, check him out. It's so much more than a competition. Competition is one way, but a competition is like, it's like lights on or lights off. Yeah. The demonstration could be more like a dimmer switch. You can adjust the intensity, ramp it up.
Yeah.
And if you need to, you can scale it back down to kind of preserve their dignity or make sure they do a really good job. It's scaled to what their abilities are.
Yeah. Nice. I like that. I mean, it's interesting. I only ran into you guys recently, which is weird because we'll get into it later maybe, but we have some connections through Mark Chang and other people, and I went, how did I not run into these guys earlier? But I only recently ran into what y'all were doing, and at first I went, wow, this is really beautiful and neat, and I in some ways it'd be cool to do that, but at the same time I went, whoa, I'm glad I don't have to go through that kind of test to get my belts. But now as I'm in a frustrated kind of high level blue belt who's been training for nearly 14 years. And so it's I found myself again, I took a long break, came back recently about a year ago, but it's getting very frustrating when the expectations are not clear, or when it's like, oh, well, am I progressing? Am I not? Am I ready? Am I not? And having an actual laid out kind of like, hey, here's what you need to demonstrate. And then you're going to go through this rite of passage. okay, like that there is something really nice and appealing to me now about that clarity because I mean, at a lot of academies too, it's every time there's a promotion day or they're giving out stripes, whatever, it's always this drama and everybody, some people are ticked off because they're not getting them and other people are, it always ends up being a little bit of a mess. And so I think I can see how what you guys have done might alleviate some of that trouble.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of rank is, some people are like, no rank, no rank, rank is terrible, belts are
Right.
terrible. But they are milestones.
Mhm.
They're a calendar.
Yeah.
They also do indicates they point strongly toward a level of skill. They don't always deliver, but they do point strongly toward that.
Yeah.
You're less likely to underestimate a skinny brown belt
Mm.
than in some kind of no-gi situation where
Yeah.
you
Sure.
know.
Yeah.
So I mean, just for like safety and recognition, and so you can kind of scale your own efforts, I think they're useful.
Yeah.
And this methodology that I'm using, it's the thing is, it's proven. I did it. I implemented it, and my guys were known as very technical, and it's not. I'm not doing it to be flowery or to, it's just a really tried and true method of um, allowing you to sharpen your knife,
Yeah.
right? And then step up and progress because ultimately it comes down. I mean, when you like the art, especially when I started training, it was nebulous. There was like a million techniques scattered. What's working? What isn't?
Yeah.
It was really just like and now it's not a lack of information, it's an information overload. We have a different kind of problem, but
Sure.
the problem is still there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I had a really advanced practitioner come to my academy in Oregon, like when I first was open, and he knew all kinds of stuff. He knew shoot fighting. He was a super advanced practitioner. He had a good time in my class. And he said, the really great thing about what you did with that DVD, Blue Belt Requirements, is you cut things away,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Here is what you need to focus on. And it's not about showing off. It's about, I mean, the brilliance is really with Mr. Harris. It's about narrowing down a set of core techniques that also teach you fundamental movements.
Mm.
And then those movements apply broadly.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's a couple tricks in here. Like when I asked Mr. Harris, how do I get better? I was a blue belt, kind of talented blue belt, but I wasn't quite breaking through, and I'd been training, and I'd wake up in the morning, do push-ups. Like, what do I got to do to get that purple belt?
Yeah.
And he said, look, if you want to get better, you have to get a training partner. They're worth their weight in gold.
Mm.
I got the training partner. I started doing the repetitions. He said the questions you will ask will totally change once you do 500 triangles, 500 arm locks.
Yeah.
Should your foot be like this or should it be like that?
Yeah.
How much should I be pulling down as opposed to pushing up? Or how do I say, yeah, just like real minutia. And your body, you use your consciousness. People think knowledge is skill. Knowledge is, I mean, far from it. You have an awareness of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to use your consciousness through discipline action to program your body, to create muscle memory.
Right.
And then be able to smoothly step to that next technique, or often that next position where the next technique is possible. Mm-hmm. So that's why drilling, like from blue to purple, is a big leap.
Yeah.
And how do you bridge that gap? You have to drill. And now there's kind of a thing like, oh, no, you don't want to drill. The thing is, there's a time where you have to obsess in jiu-jitsu if you want to get really good. Mm-hmm. And you have to drill constantly with your training partner so that it becomes automatic. And the sensitivity you gain through training with that one person can then apply to all people.
Yeah.
But if you're just training with this person, that person, that, you don't really develop sensitivity. You can kind of over time, but you can really mainline it in your development if you have one person that you work with a lot. And there are countless stories of people like, look at the Rutola brothers, like Nikki and Matt Serra. They said their big breakthrough was when they got mats and they started training together every day after outside of the academy.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, and that would lead me to another question, which is just, how do you recommend people go about accelerating their learning or at least keeping it at a good pace? I mean, I know I've had better success in tying things together after my long break and coming back, but I mean, I felt really jujitsu stupid for a long time because I'd have areas of my game that I loved, like I got obsessed with the guard and my guard was very, very good.
Mhm.
But then other things were just not there. And I was a white belt for four-stripe white belt for like it took me 2 years to get to there, and then 7 years of just being a four-stripe white belt and feeling like,
Mhm.
man, why can't I learn jujitsu? And even now, like I've been putting in like a ton of time. I'm training twice as much as most of the guys half my age, and doing a lot, and yet still feel like it's like every time I think I'm making a breakthrough, it's still a struggle. And so I wonder what's your, I mean, a lot of drilling. Do you recommend a lot of positional sparring or?
I mean, where you're at right now,
Hmm.
it depends on where you are in the journey. So there's like a couple of different challenges in learning jujitsu and mastering it. One is, getting your body kind of conditioned.
Sure.
All right. At first, like everything hurts. And then after a while, you're like, man, it doesn't really hurt as much anymore because you're just kind of into it. Two is knowing what to learn. So just getting the knowledge, okay, I need to learn arm lock from guard. I need to learn the arm drag so I can get to the back on big guys. You know, but really the most, and Mr. Harris brought this to my attention, the most important thing is not technique, it's training method.
Mm.
Training method, how you train. And that's like the genius of Jigoro Kano. Take away the most dangerous techniques so that you can rep out and program your body with large, powerful, dynamic movements that can be replicated instantly, naturally.
Yeah.
That is far better than having like, the most piercing, deadly, lethal tool that you rarely get to use or execute against a resistant partner. So it's better to have like slightly duller tools, but have them much more accessible so you can reach them at any time.
Yeah.
So with you at where you are, like high blue,
Mm-hmm.
and I've no doubt you're like right at that cusp. It is all about drilling. It is all about and reverse engineering.
Mm.
Like, okay, I like to get the arm lock. Okay, how do I get the arm lock? Well, you have to threaten a choke very often. So the arms come up and the arms aren't just locked in, you know?
Yeah.
Or how do you get a hip bump sweep? Well, you can't get it if they're buried into you really low,
Right.
like Mark Kerr style, right? They have to either be fighting for their posture or escaping something. So boom, the threat of a choke. Boom, they posture up because they're escaping it. You ride that momentum, tip them over into a hip bump sweep, right? So you have to know what comes before to get the reaction that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that can either be Kazushi or a submission attempt. Like they're equal, off balancing or a submission attempt. Either way, it gets them to move in a specific way,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for you, you need to get with your training partner, map out, okay, this is what I'm good at. Do like arm bar, triangle, arm lock a bunch of times. Then arm lock, triangle, omoplata a bunch of times. Okay, then the guard pass, they turn away, boom, sink your hooks in, get the back, you know, whatever, whatever kind of a back system you want to implement there. Uh, and just 3 to 4 step combinations.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're, and then, but like really high percentage scenarios.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed, how people just fall into, it's like a video game after a while. You're like, oh my God, they did exactly, you go for a Kimura and they posture up and you follow it
Yeah.
right into a hip bump sweep. You're like, oh my God, that was so easy.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you need to believe in your attack
Mm. Yes.
and really sell the attack.
Yeah.
Just going for the choke isn't good enough. You
Mm-hmm.
have to really actually put them in danger,
Mm-hmm.
threaten them, get the honest response, and then have the follow-up ready immediately. And that's where the drilling comes in. Because you might be able to note what their response was, but not be able to take advantage of it. When you note the response, then you bring it back to your drilling.
Yeah.
Oh, he responded like this. Boom. And then you can follow it up immediately. And when you see guys that like are effortless and they flow, black belts or brown belts that like flow from position to position, they're actually waiting for you to catch up most of the time. They're waiting for you to have the appropriate response because they already know what it's going to be like.
Right. Yeah.
You know, they already know he can only do 2 or 3 things from this position. But like it is very rare that people do anything outside the box of like the 2 or 3 things to resist something.
Right. Makes sense. Interesting. And related to that, I would say, because that's all definitely very good advice. And one place where I feel like some of the advice I've been given may have caused some setbacks, and I'm curious because we hear this a lot in jiu-jitsu advice is to, slow down, don't use your athleticism, don't use strength, don't use speed. But I wonder for you, I mean, I can see the wisdom in that, especially long term, and especially as I get older, and it's like, okay, I'm not going to have this stuff forever. But I've definitely found also that when I was at a really good point where I felt like I was doing great and learning well and really getting, really putting things together, things are working. And then I was advised to do some of these things, and I feel like it wasn't like I was using strength to make things work, but now I find myself giving up sometimes, maybe when I shouldn't. Yeah, when do you find that point of going, well, I'm meeting some resistance, and now I'm finding I err on the other side where I go, oh, I met some resistance, I'm gonna let that go, I'll do something else. Where there are some things in jiu-jitsu in some positions where it's like you're gonna have to do a little bit of stone versus water at some point. But
Yeah.
and even speed, sometimes you need to react when something's happening, and there's a fine line, I think, between speed and timing when people talk about that timing, or is that speed? And
Yeah. Let's talk about speed. It's totally okay to go fast, but you need the green light.
Yeah.
Most people go at the yellow or sometimes the red, and but it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
You have to know, okay, green light, boom, you can go. The other problem with speed is a lot of people don't have, a good braking system.
Yeah, right.
You go as fast as you can comfortably stop from.
Yeah, as long as you're not going to hurt somebody. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So nothing wrong with the attributes. It's really it's more like a tachometer in a car, where you don't want to redline it.
Right.
If you're redlining it, there's too much tension and someone's going to get hurt if things go wrong. If there's a sudden clash, if something slips, if that's too much. So you want to keep it. You can't be at like 1100 RPMs. That's too low. You have to be activated. You got to be in that sweet spot. It's like or a guitar string, too loose, no good, too tight, it breaks. Right? You want to have the right amount of tension. So I say, 3 to 5,000, 6,000 RPM. Yeah, just kind of exist in that zone, and you can drop it down. You can idle for a bit. But if you, even now as a black belt, experienced black belt, if I'm redlining it, I'm like, okay, I got like 2 seconds here.
Yeah.
You don't want to exist in that zone. And there is a time where you need, strength, power, speed, explosiveness, all that.
Yeah.
But it's not when you're drilling.
Okay.
The drilling is when you want to work on your tempo. You want to go slow, develop the sensitivity. You want to match your movement should match the moment. So do it slow, iron out those angles so you don't have to like explode into a position or muscle them up. If you're really using a lot of muscle, it's like, okay, the angle isn't right. Something's not right here. I need to reposition, or I'm too close to you, or something like that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to not using that stuff, you use it when you're sparring. Don't redline it.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can circle back to the drilling,
Yeah.
there are times where you have to drill a lot, but there are times where it doesn't really help you that much. Like these days, for me to drill familiar techniques,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really help me that much. I get much more out of just sparring, being kind of different positions, letting people take positions, working on specific things in a live situation. But I have a very high level of skill, and that is not something you can do as a beginner. You have to learn how to drive, then you have to have experience racing.
Yeah.
All the mechanics of shifting and braking and punching the accelerator and leaning into the turn, accelerating through the turn, you have to have all that stuff automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're memorizing courses. Then you're facing specific drivers on the course.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a time for everything, and that is one of the most difficult things about jujitsu. You train differently at different levels,
Yeah.
but really very few people talk about that.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. No, I like that point, and I could even see how, like I noticed that recently. I don't know why in my early years it didn't come up much. We weren't doing any positional sparring at the various gyms I was at, but recently we did start that. I was talking to Henry Akins. I was going, "Hey, what do you recommend for like, oh, you should do some positional sparring." And then that week, my school started a positional sparring class. I'm, oh, great, and it was really good. But even in that case, I like to make sure that if I could, it'd nice to know what positions we're doing beforehand to make sure that I came in with something in mind from that position that I already know that I want to, work on, even if it's ABC game. But I could see how if I would have done that as a white belt brand new, might not have been quite as useful because I just don't know enough from each position to be working on anything. It would still be the same kind of chaoticness maybe of just regular sparring at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have like 8 holes in the ground. And when you start, it's like, okay, let's fill in the guard hole, and the guard passing hole and the holding side control hole. And so I mean that's the highest percentage positions for you.
Right.
Yeah, right. We need to learn basics here. So you fill in those holes. But if you're like, oh, whatever, the deep half hole, that's you don't need that yet.
Right.
The honey hole,
Yeah.
deficit in your game. No, you don't need that.
Yeah.
That is later. And for more advanced players, they need to do kind of a differential diagnostic
Mhm.
on their game. Okay, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. Eventually you bore yourself with your own game. At high blue belt, I was like, okay, I got a good sleeve choke, a good triangle,
Yeah.
and a kimura.
Yeah.
And like, okay, and I can tap a lot of people with that, but this is terrible. I bore myself with my own game.
Yeah.
But at first it's like, if I could just tap somebody.
Sure, right. We know
Right.
where we're at. I know.
Yeah. So it's you will always be slightly dissatisfied with your game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you have an area that you need to fill, like I'm still working on my wrestling. I took a private lesson in wrestling yesterday.
Huh?
And what did we do? We did a lot of reps.
Yeah.
And I had a great, incredible uke, super seasoned, collegiate scholarship wrestler, all that. And he gave me a great setup to this arm drag, to this single variation. I was like, oh man, it was so good.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at my stage of development. I'm in the high repetition phase for that area.
Yeah.
But for him to just do a bunch of reps, no, he needs more live sparring against specific opponents because he's super high level. So, it changes. Your needs as a student of the art changes as you continue to develop and get more skilled.
Yeah. I like that. That's a really good perspective. Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard anybody mention that there is a difference between, training as a white belt and how you learn that way as, when you're at a black belt level or whatnot. Yeah. And, it's funny actually for me, like I know my one part of my game that I felt like I feel like I'm pretty well rounded now, and I was pretty getting that sort of board part that you were talking about, except for my turtle game for whatever reason. I've been to multiple seminars in turtle, just I hate bottom turtle, it drives me crazy. But I was trying to drill that a lot lately because we were focusing on it, and of course, jacked up my neck and shoulder a little bit. Even just I'm not going hard, but it's there's so there's an age thing too that is really frustrating sometimes when it's just I feel like I'm in pretty good condition for my age. I'm only 49, but what do you do too to like I mean to alter how you train and keep yourself safe as you go along, even though there's a lot of demands, obviously, like, yeah, maybe you need to do a lot of drilling and other things to move along, but it does get tougher as we get older. And I'm curious how you've, adapted your game or what advice you'd have to people who are, still coming up and yeah, need to do this hard training, but are, the body can be a little disgruntled by it sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, and it can be tricky from turtle with neck stuff because often you're trying to roll under like Granby or do a shoulder roll to be able to replace guard.
Yeah.
And if your shoulder roll, I mean, we all have like a little bit of I always have neck stuff going on, but I try to keep it balanced with yoga and whatnot. But when it comes to like you have to feel the gap and have it totally rehearsed for rolling under. So I think that goes back to ukemi, like more in place rolling at home or in the dojo, just like ducking under, threading the shoulder through, so that when that moment comes, you're not caught and then you're bearing weight on your neck, right? So that's one thing. Also, maybe that roll through isn't as good as tripoding up and then slipping your leg under, and maybe instead of rolling through to replace guard, maybe come the opposite way so um you don't roll over in that same way.
Right.
When it comes to like how your game evolves over time, it's usually you go lower and slower. Right? High elevation stuff. I used to do flying triangles and arm locks and do crazy, crazy stuff because I was light and I was coordinated, and no way am I doing that stuff. Even when I'm doing takedowns, I'm running a like constant calculation in my mind. Okay, the risk of me stepping over and being countered, is that worth it, or do I really have the opportunity to commit to this throw? It's sometimes it's easier. You're just like, let's just not take that chance. I'll just pull guard here and sweep them. So you're playing the percentages. As a young athlete in your 20s, you should do it all and push yourself and try to do you should still, for any age, you have to tap early.
Yeah.
That's the number one career killer, not tapping early.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really respect about Gordon Ryan, like he is he will tap and he will not crank. If he gets a submission on somebody, he will not crank it. The tap is respected. Your body is respected. Your opponent is respected. You got to give that same respect to yourself. And hey, man, I've been there. I'm like, oh, he doesn't quite have it, or he doesn't. You can squeak out. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But tap early and just give it to him. Be like, oh, that was good. That was super clean. And just move on, because you can still learn if you're injured. But my God, it is not worth paying that price.
Yeah.
I mean, no one will remember that tap.
Yeah. True.
No one.
Yeah.
No one's watching.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's definitely not worth it. I know. I used to used to have very flexible shoulders, and I didn't even notice until one day I went to go down and pick up my kid, and I went, oh, I couldn't pick her up that well, and I went, oh, and then I went and got MRI. It's like, yeah, you've completely torn up your rotator cuff. I went, oh, just too many. Just, oh no, I don't think, no, it doesn't seem like it's there.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
making sure, like, oh, make sure you get it right. It's like, no,
Mm.
probably weren't getting out of that anyway. Why didn't you just tap? And in general, I wasn't paying it on freak. I wasn't one of those guys that was like, you're not gonna get me. It was just, I just felt like, oh, I have that range. It's fine. But there was no point in going that extra, the last 10-20% that ends up with now I've got a, permanently unhappy shoulder. It's not good.
Dude, absolutely, absolutely. Hanging out too long in a submission, even if it's not painful,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really similar to the problem beginners have. Like you put them in an arm lock,
Right.
and you're like, dude, I'm gonna break your arm, and they don't want to tap because they're like, it doesn't hurt that bad yet. And
Right.
you're like, no, trust me, this is gonna get bad.
Yeah.
All right, but they don't know, so
Yeah.
they hang out too long.
Yeah.
So don't like a white belt mentality is good, but not in that sense.
Right.
And a lot. It's more of getting older and evolving your game. A lot more passing from the knees.
Mm.
A lot more pressure.
Yeah.
Not to make them suffer necessarily, but to make them give something up.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're frustrated and they're like, okay, I have to give something up in order to change the position to have an opportunity to escape.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are important factors. More, and I'm kind of circling back to something you said earlier with your, basically sometimes if you don't want to use force or muscular strength, you kind of give up and then you're back at zero.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Just think of it like passing the guard. You almost pass the guard, they replace the foot, they square back up to you, and you kind of go back to zero.
Right.
And you are at like the 95-yard line.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, you get better and better at camping out, on the field. So you start out at zero.
Mm-hmm.
And then you make it, and black belts are happy, like, oh, I made 20 yards. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll work from there.
Yeah.
Try to do a couple more plays to advance to like the 60. And maybe they can do, go all the way and score a touchdown or pass the guard. But most people give up.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to learn how to camp out. Keep your gains.
Yeah.
Your positional gains.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that a lot. That's a strategy I use in games and other things. Like it's always like, okay, get this, solidify it, make sure it's stable, and then we move on from there. So definitely, yeah, using that in jiu-jitsu seems very wise. Well, yeah, it's still tricky when you meet that, like, oh, okay, I'm trying to, or someone's, I got to the point where it's like, well, okay, if they're applying the correct technique to get out of this, I guess I'll let them because I've been told not to worry too much about winning or whatever. But sometimes I'm realizing sometimes in jiu-jitsu too, and you'd think I would have figured this out after, 14 years practically on the mats, but sometimes you just kind of have to figure it out yourself. I mean, it's good to get advice, but I don't know. There's certain things where nobody knows really what's going on with you besides you to some extent, and that can go too far as well, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sometimes you've just gotta figure that out on your own a little bit.
Yeah, and as teachers, we're pointing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're relaying our, I am in many ways fortunate that I was not a stud athlete. I was considered maybe a good athlete, like coordinated, smooth movements, all that stuff. But there are guys who just naturally gifted with so much strength
Mm-hmm.
and as men, we use the strength, we use what we've got,
Yeah.
right? So I had to develop all kinds of sophisticated workarounds and sensitivities and strategies for like working around people's power.
Mm-hmm.
And those breakthroughs that those strategies, those tactics you employ to work around, for example, if you're fighting some big guy and he's like 250 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be hell to sweep him.
Right.
Maybe it's easy. I mean, if they're not very skilled, but if they're really good,
Yeah.
so you instantly like eliminate, okay, I'm not going to be able to sweep this guy. I need to go for an arm drag, or I need to, somehow come out to his back.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that boom, you eliminate a bunch of stuff and then you just focus on a winning strategy. And you need to do that with all kinds of areas of your game and like remember them, and then try to, this is again, Mr. Harris, strengthen your strength.
Mm.
Especially from blue to purple. Yes, it is good to not worry about winning so much, especially if you're a brown belt and you can win like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to, you can always go back to your A game, but you have to develop an A game.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So right now you're still working on your A game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you have a lot of components. You're like, oh, no, I got a good Kimura. I got, a decent triangle. I got whatever your strengths are.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to strengthen those so that you can tap people.
Yeah.
And reliably, then go to an area where, it's that you're more unfamiliar. Okay, deep half.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll play around with that. Maybe maybe your guard passing's hard.
Oh, yeah.
It is difficult. It takes a long time to have all the strategies.
Mm-hmm.
A smaller player, okay, got to use pressure. You have to understand that. And, big guy, okay, I'm going to use speed and agility. You got to have both to be able to pass all guards.
Yeah.
And if you're not good at guard passing, then don't be on your back at all.
Right.
Ask your partner to, hey, I'm working on passing. Do you mind if let's just stay, if I pass, we'll just reset. Don't you try to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Sweep and submit, but so you're like, boom, narrowing it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of in line with the ecological method.
Sure.
We're creating constraints
Mm-hmm.
so you can focus on, developing something, a specific skill.
Yeah.
And, you need to do that and strengthen your strength. And, you might need to do a little bit of reverse engineering. To like, okay, how do I get into this position more reliably or this submission more reliably? Or you can go one step beyond that. Okay, they usually do this, and then how would I follow that up? And if they get out of that, how would I follow that up? Right? So now we got this kind of long submission chain
Mm-hmm.
that you drill over and over again. And then you can kind of like open yourself up to filling in those other holes in your game, which will be there.
Oh, yeah.
No one knows it all.
Right.
Jeff Glover has a really great quote. I did this project with him called Money on the Mat. And the thing is, we were in the car and he's saying, man, like no one makes it to black belt with that one move. The one move that you're killing everyone in the tournament, you're tapping everybody, eventually you hit a level where that one move is not going to do it anymore.
Yeah. I've got a bit of a weird spot between the age and what I'm good at thing is that I particularly my A game is definitely my guard game, but when you're getting stuck under people who are stronger, younger, heavier than you and your best stuff is in your guard, it's like my back is not appreciating that at all.
Totally.
Such a
and how do you get around that? Maybe it's arm drag.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's elevator sweep.
Yeah.
As soon as they post a leg, you circle your foot underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you pull down on that head and kick up with the leg. Yeah. So you're not really having to bear their weight.
Right.
You're just looking for every opportunity or you stretch them out. You're constantly like pushing on their knees while you're pulling their elbow away.
Good idea.
So you're stretching them out and creating opportunity to sweep.
Yeah.
There's different ways to go about it. And, you're finding it's important to find the stuff that doesn't work because you can eliminate that.
Mm-hmm.
And you really remember the stuff that does work. And if you are too gifted, you don't really understand that jiu-jitsu is maneuvering around their power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the indirect method.
Yeah.
It's most people oppose it right on. Here's one point, here's another point, and then boom, they face them head on. But jiu-jitsu is really going out to this point.
Right. Yeah.
Right? The third point of the triangle.
Yeah.
And attacking them from another angle where they're more vulnerable.
Yeah. I like that. It's very true. Yeah. Working on the getting on top and staying on top thing, but without being too forceful. So or speedy.
Well, use just enough.
Yeah, use exactly. It was, I think maybe it was Matt. Somebody's like, use just enough and no more. Use what you need to and no more. Something like that. It was like, huh,
Hmm.
okay, yeah. So there's a certain amount that does have to be used, especially yeah, if you smaller guy and you're dealing with a bigger younger guy. So yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I did not. I actually lost weight when I came back to Jiu-Jitsu, so I don't have the extra like, well, you're getting older, so use your weight as pressure. I'm like, well, I mean, I have pressure, but I'm actually smaller than everybody still, so it's yeah,
Hmm.
then I don't get to use that benefit. However, I love the pressure game. That's like control and pressure is amazing. It's something I didn't do much of in my younger years, but it is very nice.
And you need to keep strengthening that avenue because you can control the pace.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's where older players really get behind.
Yeah.
I can't keep the pace of like a 20-year-old college wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
No way. I could keep that pace for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But, I only have like 3 explosions in a match.
Hmm.
I get like 3 bursts of energy, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And the rest of it has got to be controlled.
Hmm.
So, don't blow it early on.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Like,
get to a good position, pace it out. If you're on top, camp out, use pressure, and let them squirm and give you opportunity.
yeah, absolutely. Good advice. Do you curious as far as like you said that you do some yoga, which is something I've been meaning to get back to. I've been doing all these things to try and deal with my back and shoulder and stuff, but I haven't gone back to yoga, and I know it's one thing that really helps us, jujitsu so much of this curling in and
Hmm.
and it's like yoga helps so much with that. I'm curious about your practice with that, and does that involve a lot of breath work too? Because I know breath work, people are finally starting to wake up to it more in jiu-jitsu, and that's helped me immeasurably as well. Like it's amazing if you know how to breathe properly. It's
Hmm.
you can survive quite well, and I'm still usually less tired than most people I go with, even if they're young, because I just figured out how to breathe right. But
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, I would say that yoga is, I mean, fundamental to me being on the mat. I'm 50.
Hmm.
I feel it. I feel it, but I can still move and I can tell the difference in my body and my mood if
Mm,
I do a yoga routine. I don't even have to do a full routine. I don't do a full routine. I might go to a full led Ashtanga class.
mm,
Ashtanga is the kind of yoga that really has resonated with me. When I was first exposed to it, I was told, "Oh, this is true yoga,"
mm.
and it reminded me of a martial art.
Ah,
Like everyone was serious. There was no music playing.
yeah.
There was an instructor who was helping people, and everyone was doing their own, the same set of poses, but at their own pace.
Mm, hmm.
And just the up dog, down dog, the sun salutations, A and B,
Hmm.
that's enough to counteract the jujitsu posture and the chair posture we engage in all the time.
Yeah. Right.
Like that in and of itself, that's like the ukemi.
Yeah.
Like there's so much just in that
Mm,
that's good for you.
yeah.
That the rest of it is, I wouldn't say totally gravy, but after that, they have so if you go to a yoga class at like an LA Fitness or something,
Hmm.
or 24-hour fitness,
Yeah.
it's kind of random.
Mm,
Like who are you going to get?
yeah.
Who's the teacher going to be?
Right.
What are they going to do? How long are they going to hold the poses? I mean, you're kind of at their mercy,
Yeah. True.
right?
Yeah.
So I am never I just don't like that kind of. I have been exposed to some good teachers that way, but that's not the way I think most people that need it in a therapeutic aspect should approach yoga.
Hmm.
I think they should approach it like a diagnostic. So whether it's Bikram yoga with they have like the same set of techniques that they do, and they're level 1, and Ashtanga is similar. They have the same set of techniques that you do for level 1. There are other levels that I'll probably never see in this lifetime, but level 1 is hard enough,
Hmm.
and you start with the right side, then you do the left side. The right side, then the left side. And you go through and you're like, "Phew, my left side is tight today."
Yeah.
Hmm. And then you kind of check out and You do like kind of this bending, up dog, down dog. Then you move into like side twist, triangle.
Mhm.
And then you move into just forward fold with your legs spread wide. So you're just gradually opening up your torso.
Mhm.
Just gradually. It's very well thought out, the sequence of it.
Mm.
And if you do the entire thing, takes a lot of energy. It's like 90 minutes. I just do 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I do the up dog, down dog. I just go to I do like the first, like 10 postures.
Mm.
Then lay on my back and I feel a lot better. Emails are much more cordial after my yoga sessions. Everything is better. And honestly, I have far less physical pain,
Mm.
which contributes to a better mood.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, I noticed that. Like, if you walk around with a level of pain, even though you can learn to tolerate it, it will change your attitude. Yeah, even the most
Uh,
stoic person.
truth, man, that is so true. And I didn't even realize that I have like a certain degree. I mean, I never really talk about it, but like there is a certain degree of pain that I have. But if I if I do the yoga, man, it goes down like 20% at least.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend Ashtanga. There's tons of tutorials online, tons of great teachers you can learn from. And for me, that is it's systematic and you can it can be a repetitive check-in that
Mm.
you do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can actually gauge your progress. If you just do a random class, am I getting better? Am I not? Is this helping?
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Do you do that pretty much every day that you train, or just when you feel like you might need it, or?
If I feel I need it, I probably 2 to 3 times a week. I'll do it in the morning, and I got a routine, I do the coffee, get in the hot tub to kind of pre-warm up. That does a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Big difference. Do it, blast some yoga, Apple yoga playlist from
Yeah.
the other room and leave the phone in the other room and I just do it and I'm never regretful that I did it.
Yeah.
And if I do like a seminar and I'm traveling in Europe, like I'll do it the morning of.
Yeah.
Like I got to be good today. I got to be in sync. Last year I went and trained in Austin with Danaher for like a couple of weeks. Just did the public class,
Yeah.
and I don't care if people were looking at me funny. I did my little yoga routine at the beginning. I got there early. I did it,
Yeah.
and I didn't get injured. He runs a very tight class where like people aren't getting injured, but still, I didn't get injured, and I don't care if it looks weird.
Mm.
I'm doing it. This
Yeah.
is my body. I'm taking care of it.
Yeah. Nice. Good idea. Yeah, I've got a little post workout. We used to call it prehab at my old school, and that I do that's kind of yoga-ish that I try to remember to do every time, and that helps a lot. But definitely finding some kind of practice outside of it would be a good idea. And I know when I was doing yoga, that was really helping. Yeah, especially when I couldn't afford the lazy man's yoga, getting a massage. So
Right.
which was nice.
Right. And then,
Yeah.
and if you couple like a good massage with yoga, okay, now we're making progress, Also, an idea from Dr. Mark Chang, our friend, one thing I got from his prehab rehab 101 was like, okay, it's all about having a square chassis.
Mm.
You don't want, and foundation training is all about like, which is excellent stuff, but it's all like, oh, we get twisted. We don't get broken. We get twisted.
Mhm.
And it's so true. I mean, so to unwind that and just have a square chassis so that everything that extends from that center line,
Yeah.
has the greatest range of motion possible.
Yeah.
It's all about just getting your hips squared, your neck squared, and being in alignment.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, gosh, I wish I could get over and see Mark in person more often. I now really see, as I'm getting older, more and more, I appreciate the wisdom of what he's doing. And I'm gonna get him back on the podcast again soon too. But just being able, to look at him at I think he's about our age. He might be a little younger, but not much. And I mean, he is in great shape, super flexible, keeps everything in order. It spends a lot of time with though, but I get this now, all the movement and modalities, things that he's been doing all these years. Like, oh, okay, there's something to that. It turns out that art. So yeah, because the whole getting broken as we age, and I know a lot of people have this like, oh, I'm just gonna go till the wheels fall off, and that's fine. And there's some sort of weird honor in being the old injured jujitsu guy or whatever, but. I don't, I mean, there's going to be a certain amount of that, but no, I don't really, that's not how I want to spend my later years, hobbling around and going, well, at least I got that submission. It's not, it doesn't, yeah, it's not good. You don't want to live like that.
The real gold medal is moving pain-free in your 60s.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I got a buddy who's about 16 was trained. He's go, well, I'm taking about 15 Advil a day. And I went, that's not good. We got to do something about that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's not sustainable. Not a good idea. So, yeah, trying to avoid that one. One more thing I wanted to ask you about before we wrap it up is teaching and just general, presentation, articulation. Was that something that you were always thinking that you would want to do, is to teach? And I mean, were you always pretty good at getting up in front of people and speaking, communicating clearly, or did you, kind of go through some sort of training or, something that helped you with that?
Well, I think it's something I was very shy as a child, but I went through experiences growing up that made me have to come out of my shell. Like I had to be in piano recitals.
Uh,
You know, I and that's kind of nerve-wracking, but if you crush it one time, you get a really powerful feedback that like, ooh, applause, reward, ooh, I like this, right? I had to do I had to do public speaking. I was always a good communicator, but like for example, when I went to Japan, I had to be in like a speech contest in Japanese.
mhm,
In front. I was just reading off the paper that they had given me,
mhm.
but it was still in front of the entire school, right? And it's something that I've kind of gotten better and better at. I'm naturally an introvert, but I've trained myself to be good when it comes to public speaking.
Mhm.
Mr. Harris is a really incredible, articulate instructor, but I've always kind of had that knack of teaching and mentoring. When I was an audio engineer, I would take students from the university and I would kind of mentor them. They'd do an internship and I'd teach them like how to write songs in the computer and give them assignments and do that kind of a thing. So it's always been there. So when it came to teaching jujitsu, it came really naturally. And I think I was able to overcome some of the stumbling blocks that a lot of people deal with, um, because it takes confidence in a way to go against the grain of what the normal methodology is. And the normal methodology for teaching is talking too much.
Yeah, yeah.
Most most guys, because they want to show that they're good,
Mm,
that they know a lot. I mean, it comes from a good place,
sure.
but they over explain.
Mm, yeah.
And when I was in Japan, I was following along in judo class and I didn't understand anything,
Right.
right? But you can still get the movements. And in fact, sometimes you dial in more because they're not speaking your language. So
Mhm,
you hone in on finer details.
mhm,
So speaking less, teaching for them, not for you.
mhm.
Common beginner instructor issue is they're sharing what they're interested in.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, I got this super cool fancy lapel wrap
Yeah.
guard. I'm like, hey, they don't know side mount escape, dude.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Problem.
And then also sometimes people just do, one or two techniques and then maybe it's positional sparring and then okay, full sparring. and you're just not outlining what the conversation, in the physical debate of jujitsu. You need to show them, okay, we can start with this, and then here's like a little counter argument, and then here's how you counter the counter. So you kind of go down the line and show them, oh, these are high percentage scenarios where this is how people are likely to respond.
Mhm.
And if you can just kind of outline that, it'll come in really handy when it comes to the live debate.
Yeah.
So just stringing together things in a, high percentage reactions in a really accessible manner, not teaching too much, and teaching things that are applicable to the group that they can actually use that day.
Yeah.
I think that little package would be beneficial for a lot of people, to start their teaching career. Just keep it in mind. It's not about you, it's about them.
Right. Good advice. Yeah. Something I've been dabbling with. We have their gym's fairly new here. So oddly enough, even at my rank, I'm one of the higher ranking people. And, I've been around the scene for a while. So one of these days, I mean, and it's open to me if I want to do it. But yeah, someday I wanted to dabble with teaching a little bit, if not for the selfish reason that I know it's supposed to help yourself as well too. So help your own growth through teaching. So
Oh yeah, and that's a I've been thinking a lot about it because I'm just started working on this project involving on teaching, like how to be a great jujitsu teacher.
Hmm.
And there's a lot to it. It's not more is not always the answer, right?
Right.
More push-ups, more words to explain.
Mhm.
Um, and I think for a lot of people, I don't know, I never really suffered from imposter syndrome, but they just, am I doing okay? Is it, I think as long as you keep the emphasis on them, and then also uh, just realize that like, for example, opening a jiu-jitsu academy, even if you're a black belt, is a finishing school for your own jiu-jitsu game.
Mm. Yeah.
Because you're going to have to go deep.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to observe and learn techniques that you don't actually use
Yeah.
for the benefit of your students. It's going to really round out your understanding of jiu-jitsu. And people will ask you questions that are weird, that might even frustrate you, that never occurred to you. You know the technique works because you've used it 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
But why?
Yeah.
Why would they react this way? Why? And maybe you've never thought of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it might strike you as like, oh, that's kind of a dumb question, but in fact, you can't react that way. You have to be like, I'm not sure. Let me get back to you on that. I'm confident this works,
Yeah.
but I've never really thought of it. And man, once you start going down those rabbit holes
Yeah.
and have to explain,
Mm-hmm.
how things are to people with different learning styles, because most of the journey up to black belt in jiu-jitsu is about you,
Mm-hmm. Right.
right? So once you turn that spotlight on other people, it really gives you a greater appreciation for the art.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the best things you can do is look at other teachers.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu, I had an amazing instructor in Japanese jiu-jitsu. He was so charismatic and gifted, really. Julio Toribio was his name.
Mm-hmm.
And he would go to all these seminars and he'd take us, and he was all about observing the teacher and how they taught the seminar. And very little to do with the techniques. I mean, he would do the techniques. He knew the techniques, but he was scoping out how their educational process and how they did it, and what games they played or whatever it was. And man, there's so much in that. Once you flip that switch and turn into an observer of their educational process and their teaching tricks, you can really accelerate your own teaching game.
Yeah. I like that. Good advice. Yeah, finding a good teacher is just that's an amazing thing. I mean, I'm very impressed with people who do a good job of it because it is tough. I mean, jujitsu is hard enough to learn for yourself, but conveying that and having the skills and public persona to be able to deal with that is a whole nother thing. So, yeah, I love it when I do find those people, and Like I recently actually of all funny, I latched on to Chris Burns's teaching a lot. It's totally different at
Oh
first.
yeah.
What is the deal? Like he's a little like, why is he so like upset? I heard him just on a podcast. Going, this guy seems a little depressed and upset or something. I don't get it. But then I watched his videos and I went, oh my God, it actually got through to me. I'm like, my thick jujitsu skull, finally something broke through. And it's just happens to be that he's teaching the kind of jujitsu that I was already studying that I liked, which is more of a kind of Hickson sort of self-defensey side, Dali Tudo. But then the way he teaches it just for me is great. And it's fun. It's actually funny. Like I find myself laughing when I'm watching his videos and they're fun to watch. I'm like, it's not like, oh God, I got another hour of this instruction. All right, I really want to learn this, so I'm just going to try and stay focused. But
Mm.
it's fun and he keeps it conceptual mostly. And it's, yeah, I dig it. So it's interesting to see people like that. And I go, okay, I wonder, yeah, what elements of that could be integrated into, whatever style of teaching that I might come up with someday, to keep it fun and interesting and still full of good knowledge.
Of course, yeah. And I had the opportunity to meet him maybe 2 months ago. I was in Australia and someone recommended, and he's a great dude. He's a great dude. I really liked him because he's not trying to be anyone else,
Nope.
and he's not trying to impress you.
Mm-hmm.
So many jiu-jitsu instructors are trying to impress. Oh, I'm really tough, or I got a gold medal, or
Yeah.
it's kind of like he's like, this is what I do. And, again, he's simplifying.
Yeah.
He's cutting away
Yes.
stuff that you don't really need that. You don't need that. This
Yeah.
is what you really need.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's refreshing. People find it refreshing. He's a good instructor. And yeah, and there's many, many expressions of jujitsu.
Mm-hmm.
You have the kind of the self-defense oriented, you have kind of the Hickson invisible jujitsu, you have the methodology of Elio and, the 100 techniques preserved by Pedro Sauer. You have the sport versions, you have the no-gi, Danaher. Dude, there's a million different ways
Yeah.
of expressing this art. And it's whatever you resonate with and whatever is functional and useful to you.
Yeah.
So for some people, they may not resonate with my particular style. It's all good. I just want to turn them on to the art itself because it's a powerful technology that alerts you to like, oh, it doesn't have to be this way. There you can find creative, innovative solutions to problems, real problems. And you don't have to like, it's not necessarily about throwing money at the problem. It's not about opposing someone with 100% force.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's sidestepping and checking it out from a different angle.
Yeah.
We have the potential to we've solved so many problems in our society.
Yeah.
Electricity, sewage, clean water, political systems, we've solved so many. Let's not mess it up now.
Yeah. Right.
And I think jujitsu is like it allows us to extend our mind into like, oh, open new solutions.
Mm.
They are possible. They're not always obvious, but they are possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh, I love that. That's excellent. Um, well, before I take up too much of your time, tell me about, I know you've got like, well, you now have what, two books out, but then I think you're about to come out with you've got a new project going on, and it sounds like even more that maybe hasn't been announced with the teaching thing, but you've got a current book you're trying to produce as well. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about that and when people can expect it and all that.
So today is actually the last day for the Kickstarter campaign on this book, Groundswell, The Rise of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in America.
Mm-hmm.
This is, it's one of the best projects I've ever been involved in. It's a beautiful book that I've been working on with my project partner, Josh Gold. He's the executive editor of Aikido Journal. He inherited that historic publication from Stanley Pranin, and he had republished two books from Aikido Journal, Aikido Masters pre-war and post-war editions, and they are gorgeous. And so he's like, hey, how about we do one of these books on modern BJJ masters? And I was like, ooh, I love it. I love it. So we constrained it to pioneers that were here in like the basically 1980s and 1990s, before the year 2000. So there's a constraint on the time. I mean, there's a million people that we could include in this book, but we want it first generation pioneers. And then if this book is successful, then we may do like second generation pioneers. So first generation pioneers would be like Joe Moreira, for example, or Jean-Jacques Machado, or Pedro Sauer, right? Those are three of the people that we interviewed for the book. Second generation pioneers would be like Roy Harris, you know, Joe Moreira's student, or John Danaher, Henzo Gracie's student. Those kind of guys, the Miguel brothers, maybe Rafael Lovato Jr., Chris Howder would be an example of second generation. So we're a lot of people are like, why didn't you include this person and that person? So we're really trying to confine it. And the idea was not just to make another book, but to preserve like their pure narrative history of the struggles they had, stories of struggle and triumph. So let me just, like we have, it's very modern. I'm just going to hold up a few.
Go ahead.
Like this is the kind of photography that we have in the book. These are just printouts. I mean, the actual quality is going to be much, much bigger, much better. But like full page coffee table style. Cool. There's never been a book. I mean, it's like you can't get a book higher quality or more beautiful than what we're producing. It's top of the line. Yeah. And our photographer, Gary Payne, is a master. And we were like, yeah, we want it kind of gritty. We want it black and white. We want it very epic. Yeah. And he's crushing it every time. Every time. So we have 9 masters. We've completed 8 out of the 9 interviews. We're hoping to wrap up production by mid-January. Send it off to the printer. Takes 2 weeks to print. Takes a couple months to get here. So we're looking at hopefully mid-March to mid-April for receiving the books and distributing this. We're really proud of it. As we go, there's a lot of, it's been a lot of work.
I bet.
Without a doubt. It has been a lot of work. Yep. You know, from interviewing, coordinating, interviewing the people, the photography, transcribing, keeping their meaning while cleaning up the English occasionally. Sure. And we would say to each other, like, man, Josh and I would be like, man, there's a lot of work, but no, that's why no one else has done it, because we are the guys that are doing it. Yeah. And it'll be a beautiful tribute to the art, to these masters, and it'll be something for the history books because it's preserved. It's not, I would say the Gracie narrative is kind of the mainstream narrative.
Sure, we all know.
And these are, they're Gracie adjacent masters, and we're just kind of giving their perspective. And we're not trying to, prove a hypothesis or champion a narrative. We're trying to just cut through the static. And these guys took real chances coming to America. And occasionally, I mean, doing a lot of, Steve Maxwell talks about doing his last challenge match at 45 against some huge wrestler. Oh. And he only did it because Hoist was there that day. He wouldn't have done it normally, but Hoist was there. So he felt obligated. Yeah. And there's so many crazy stories. I mean, Pedro Sauer fighting Mr. Utah, and like the last day the Gracies and the Machados trained together. And there's just so, and sometimes we're reading through these and we're like, this is an incredible interview. This is unbelievable. So the people that support the project, and you can still support, I'm sure when this podcast comes out, it'll still be available to support. But you won't be disappointed. Anyone that supports this will really be happy that they were part of this limited run book that'll soon be a collector's item. I'm sure of it.
Nice. Oh, good. I'm gonna go check that out. I heard a little bit about that from some of your other talks and stuff, but I was like, I've got to go get on that because it looks really nice. So, and what a great project, Anna. It's nice to show your love of the art that way. So I think it's gonna be good stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're working hard on it, and I just try to put the art in the best light possible. It's been really good to me. Jiu-Jitsu has been really good to me. So it's a two-way street. I try to put it in the best light possible and really champion how powerful it is.
Yeah,
you as a practitioner know how powerful it is.
Yes. Yeah.
But a lot of people out there, the civilians, um, they're not really aware of the magic. And I mean, the more people that we can get involved in it, to at least have an appreciation or an understanding of what this art is,
Mhm.
the better off we are as a society.
Yeah.
And it's in line with Kano. He wants a strong, vigorous society, and judo and jujitsu is one way to make that happen.
Fantastic. Absolutely agree, and I'm glad you're doing the work. So thank you so much for everything that you have done and that you're continuing to do and providing for everybody. And I'm glad to see you're doing well. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
No, thank you, Chris. Pleasure to be on here.
Thank you, Roy. I will hang out for a second, but we'll end the show here and hope to talk to you again soon. Maybe someday I'll get out to the Palm Desert and say hi.
Oh my God, it would be great. It would be great. The academy, they just moved into a beautiful new facility. Really, it's crazy good. Our The person that founded this dojo, Glenn Hegstead, he's kind of a wild man. They did like a locked up abroad on him. He's written a couple of books. He was a Hell's Angel. He's led the life, man. He's been all over the place. And as kind of his parting gift, he's dying of cancer right now. He's in hospice at the moment. But he wanted to create like this martial arts facility. And CVBJJ, his kind of adopted sons, they run it. Anthony Mantanona was like his boy. He didn't have a son, but he was kind of like his boy. And it's a family affair. They're in this new facility. It was a $1.8 million gift.
Oof. Wow.
This building. It's gorgeous, and we're happy to be. It was his dream to have like a Los Angeles quality martial arts studio in the desert.
Nice.
And he saw that happen. He realized that dream. He's really an incredible guy. If you're curious, they did a locked up abroad on him when he was captured by these Colombian military rebels and kidnapped.
Yeah.
I would like come down here from Bend.
Yeah. I
would like come visit friends and go train. I was like, is Glenn still kidnapped? They're like, yeah, he's still kidnapped. He's and they released him.
Yeah.
He was on a trip from the tip of California, southern tip of California, to the southern tip of Argentina.
Ah. Wow.
And he wrote a book about the experience.
Yeah.
And when he was in Colombia, he got captured, and they held him for several months. And then he eventually tricked them into releasing him. And then after he recovered, he got back on his bike and continued the journey. I mean, that's the kind of dude he is. I know. He's not normal.
And what's the name of the academy?
CVBJJ, Coachella Valley Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and Judo.
Okay. Cool. All right. I'll check that out here. I'll actually stop recording now, but that's awesome. I'm glad we got that. Okay. Thank you, and we will probably talk to you again soon, hopefully.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.